Welcome back to another election edition of Meet Victoria with Caleb Shaw. We've got elections coming up. Early voting is February 14th through the 25th, and election day is March 1st. Guys, we're just going to jump right into it with a candidate running for office this go around. My friend, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself and let us know what office you're running for.
Well, thank you for having me, Caleb. I'm Micah Patton, and I'm candidate for Justice of the Peace of Precinct 4 here in Victoria County.
Roger that. So before we get into Justice of the Peace and what all that entails, give me a little bit of rundown about you and your family and what the heck made you want to run for office.
Yes, sir. So my wife and I have lived here for over 11 years. We have 2 children, Rix and Hayes. They're at De Leon Elementary. And we live over in Bell Tower. And we've made Victoria our home. We both grew up away from here, but we moved here and we've enjoyed it. For the last 18 years, I've worked in the oil and gas industry as a sales rep and sales manager in different facilities of sales. But that's kind of my background. I have I have a degree in criminal justice, so I've always been interested in the law and law enforcement and those type of things. I decided that hey, I wanted to run. I think that my skill set and my education suit me well for Justice of the Peace and that job, and it's an opportunity for me to serve the Victoria County.
And it's an opportunity to use your degree. I've got a criminal justice degree as well, and it hangs on my wall, and I do absolutely nothing with it because I'm in real estate and do this. And
yep.
so
I'm pretty good at selling stuff.
Put it to use.
So,
way to go.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Awesome. I have to plead a little bit of ignorance here. I've had to do this on quite a few different offices in this town that I just don't fully know what the different job entails and stuff like that. And the question I'm about to ask you, I also realize you are not the incumbent. So you're on the outside looking in, and so you're not privy to all the interworkings and all that. So I understand that. But that being said, for people like me that may not fully understand the role of Justice of the Peace or what kind of their mission is or what they serve in the community, would you mind explaining that and what your thoughts on Justice of the Peace is, that job, and what all it entails?
Absolutely. So the county's broke up into 4 precincts. And so each precinct has a Justice of the Peace. And that is a court, basically like a small claims court, not so much criminal as traffic violations, types of things like that, but it's a court that's representative of the constituents of that precinct. So I think a question had been asked before, why is it why is it a Democrat or a Republican? Why do we have that? Because you have to pick, you are representative of that precinct. So if you have a conservative population that's in that precinct, they're going to elect, usually a conservative type judge. But you have small claims. So evictions are run through that court. Truancies run through that court. Like I said, the traffic violations. Then you also have the claims. I think, we've talked about they've raised the claim limit to like 20,000. So you have some claims that come through there, lawsuits or types of things like that. But that's basically what it is. And it's to keep a lot of those cases from going to the larger court. Mm-hmm. And the judge, again, is a citizen of that precinct. So, his neighbors or folks close to, that know him are typically are represented there.
So the Justice of the Peace job itself is kind of then viewed as a judge job? Is that correct? Or do you work for a judge?
No, it's a judge job. So the constable for that precinct mm-hmm. actually works out of your office, and they're the bailiff for your court. So you have court, once a week or however many times the county court has decided that you would have it. But so
it's you and a constable then.
It's you and a constable, okay. Yes, sir. And then you have court clerks. So you have folks that work, keep up with your paperwork and keep up with your trial dates and those type of things. So,
man, there's a lot to that. What do you see as the top priorities of a candidate or your priorities going into this, of things that, like you said, your skill set, all that? Why is this, what is it that you want to accomplish in this?
Well, the big motivation for me has been, the experience I've had and a lot of folks have had since 2020 and 2021. The federal government has intruded into our lives. They've acted unconstitutionally with mandates and executive orders and emergency powers. And so I think they've exceeded their powers, and they've told us, hey, you got to do this or do that. So this is an opportunity for me to counteract that and say, no, the United States is a nation of laws. So when the CDC issued a moratorium on evictions, that they overstepped their boundary, and they were told so by the Supreme Court. Hey, you guys can't do that. It's not in your wheelhouse.
Right.
So we're going to have issues, and those are the two issues that I'm looking at. We're going to have evictions issues, and we still have truancy issues, but we're going to have more of them because of virtual learning and just, the enrollment in Texas in public schools since 2020 has dropped almost 5%. So those are kids that we just can't keep track of. Those are kids who have disappeared. Their parents have done this. And so, we have truancy issues in Victoria County right now. So those are two issues that I think, I can help bring solutions to, and it's kind of a business-minded solution. You're going to work with parties that are in your area, in your precinct, and so you get to know those folks and come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Can you kind of dig a little deeper into truancy and what that is? Because I know that that's a big portion of what you all do, but I would argue it's another area where a lot of people don't really. What does truancy mean?
Absolutely. So that's chronic absenteeism from school.
Okay.
So that's showing up maybe the first period of school and ditching class for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So that's
it's not like when we were young, where hey man, you could ditch a class every now and then and get away with it.
Right.
You do it consistently now, they're going to nail you.
So I grew up in a small town, so everyone knew my parents.
Yeah.
My mom worked at the school. So if Micah disappeared,
you were done.
I was done.
Yeah.
Like, hey, where'd you go today?
Yeah,
we went to the arcade at the Pizza Hut. I mean, we weren't venturing. Yeah, we weren't venturing very far. But it's chronic absenteeism. And, I talked to a friend of mine. His aunt's been a justice of the peace for 30 years. And so I called her, and she's been part of our life for a long time. And so I talked to her, and I said, hey, what have you experienced? And she said truancy is the biggest issue. And truancy affects our schools. It affects their budgets. The schools get money for their budget with students in class. And so if they have attendance issues, if they're not keeping up, then that's going to affect their budgets. And then that affects our teachers. And then that affects the students that want to be there because the educational services aren't funded. So there's a lot of things that go into that one little issue and truancy has been an issue. I mean, I talked to my county commissioner, and he's mentioned it. And so that's something that we see. And I think working with the school district, I've reached out to my school board member. I've reached out to the president of the school board to just kind of plan a discussion to see, hey, what are you guys thinking? What are solutions that are viable, that will work well for the school, work well for the student and the parent? Because you can't, I think it was 2015, the Texas legislature passed a law that says you can't punish the student. You can correct their behavior, but you can't be punitive. And so you have to look for creative solutions. How do we get those kids to get back to class? And of course, my friend who's the Justice of the Peace down in Cameron County, she said, if you can catch those kids and correct that behavior in middle school, then that's going to help, because by the time it gets to high school, I mean, they're on a path that is almost uncorrectable.
Right. Now that makes sense. Is this something that is only done for public schools, or is it both public and private schools that you do this?
It's going to be public schools.
Okay.
So private schools handle their own, they have their own issues there, I'm sure, but they handle it themselves.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Gotcha. Do you see any, speaking of truancy and all these things and your priorities, do you see any current issues though that hey man, this isn't looking good that we need to get after? Is it more like, no, I just need to get in here and figure things out and see where to attack and where to...
Well, I think in the large scope of everything, I think the evictions issue is going to be something that is really something we need to tackle.
Yeah.
Because that's going to create a lot of instability. So if you have parents who were affected, their jobs were affected during the coronavirus, the pandemic, maybe they got laid off, maybe it was just mom at home, maybe it was just, maybe dad. But you had a single parent home. There's a lot of instability there already. Mm-hmm. And so if they're working two jobs to try and make up for the job they lost, and so they're not able to interact with their children in the same way, and those children are missing school, they don't know if they're going to stay in that apartment or stay in that house. There's a lot of instability that the whole evictions moratorium created.
Yeah. And it's stuck. Forgive me over talking to you, but as a real estate broker too, one of the things I saw is a lot of the landlords just get hosed. Because here are people that saved up, they took their money, they invested back into our community, buying a rental home, doing all this, And then when their tenants didn't pay for whatever reason, some justified, some not.
Absolutely.
They had no control, and they were just told, well, sorry, you still have to pay, but your tenant doesn't. And that sucked, you know, and I saw a lot of people, a lot of landlords, you know, I was this close to getting into that game myself, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to. The government has a good way of always sticking their head in and messing things up, and I thought that whole deal was completely out of line in the sense of, how is the government going to come in and tell me that I can't collect rent on a property that I own? And, you know, that just, unless you're paying me for it and you're going to float that rent, then you don't get that say to me.
Exactly.
And then when the court came in and said, no, this is unconstitutional, you can't do that, and they, we're going to do it anyway. What? You know, and so I think that's where those battles come up between local and federal, and that's going to get real interesting when they start saying, well, you need to go enforce this. And it's like, well, no, that's unconstitutional. I'm not going to do that. And, you know, so I do think we need a fighter out there and something like that, because there's a lot of just potential for federal overreach. Well, they're already doing it. They're already doing it, you know. And so, buttoning it up here, why should voters elect you versus the incumbent? And, you know, your little 30-second speech or your final speech here. Yes, why sir. You, man? Why you?
Well, and I decided to run for this job. I decided to run for that. I'm not running against the other candidate. I think he's done well, but I think that I bring a business-minded approach to these solutions. I look at the national level, and the federal government acts with a broad swipe and says, hey, here's the problem, or here's the solution, and those solutions create more problems. So you're going to have solutions locally to fix that, and you have individual cases to do it. So it's thinking nationally, acting locally is kind of my approach, and being business-minded in those solutions, working with all parties, because you have small business owners, you're the people who own rent houses, you have tenants who are the citizens in your precinct. Mm-hmm. So it's working amongst both of them. It's working with your school board instead of being a siloed government body. Working with the government, the other government folks that are in there, the school board, the county commissioners, your constable, the city of Victoria. So it's just that approach, and that's the approach I've taken in my business career.
Got it. Sir. For those that want to follow your campaign or support you or reach out to you, how can they do so?
Well, so have Facebook.
Okay.
We're there. I've got a website now, my phone number,
Moving
my email.
Up, huh?
Absolutely. So we're big time all of a sudden. So Micah Patton for Justice of the Peace. Precinct 4 is the Facebook page, and just follow me there and interact. We're going to do the Victoria County Republican Women's Forum, so we've got that coming up, and we're happy to do this.
Well, man, I'll tell you, it's never easy to toss your hat in the ring. You got to come do all these shows like this. You got to go talk to all these people, and it's a real intrusion into your personal life and your time with your family and all that. And so, to every candidate that tosses their hat in the ring, thank you. I appreciate it. Win or loss, I appreciate that people are willing to step forward and serve and put their necks out there, because you open yourself up to take heavies and hey, I want to help. So everybody attacks a lot of the time, and it's like, and luckily I don't think you're in one of those races where it gets politically brutal, and because I haven't heard anything negative, which is a testament to you guys, and anything I'm forgetting before we let you go out of here, my brother?
Well, I would close with a quote.
Talk to me.
So Ronald Reagan once said the scariest words in the English language are, I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
God bless. I don't think there's been a better one, has there?
That's no. So I'm not here to help, I'm here to provide solutions.
Roger that. Well, again, guys, early voting is February 14th through the 25th. Election day is March 1st. Thank you so much. Make sure you tune in. We're going to have at least 18 of these candidate interviews, so check them all out. Special thanks to ThriveFuel Digital Marketing, and we will see you at the next one, guys.